Well, female fans were probably very happy about the latest episode of The Walking Dead when Daryl Dixon finally got his much anticipated synopsis episode where it's just all about him. Of course, he had Beth along for the ride. Now, I don't really understand why female fans are so into Daryl. No offense, Norman Reedus. I mean, he's not ugly, but why aren't some of the other actors seen as sex symbols? Like Glenn, for instance. Glenn is a lot more attractive. He's smarter. He's funnier. He's popular. He's a fan favorite. Just don't understand why he's not considered a sex symbol. Well, we know that Beth is definitely into Daryl. And we know they're probably going to end up hooking up. There was this, like, Garden of Eden scene where Beth and Daryl were out in the woods, all by themselves, the only two apparently alive, and a snake, was crawling through the grass, and Daryl goes over and traps it, chops its head off and kills it. It's kind of like an allegory of the book of Genesis story, where this time it was the human beings that got the best of the snake. But Beth decides she wants to try out alcohol. She's never had it in her life, so she goes out on a hunt for alcohol. Daryl begrudgingly accepts this mission, and they end up stumbling across this country club where some bad things have happened to country club patrons. Not only were they killed, some of them apparently hung themselves, but some of them were obviously killed by other human beings. Now, there was some hint that it was the staff that rose up and killed the richer patrons of the country club, but I have a feeling that it might be the hunters. There's also a hint that the hunters may have been the ones that took over Rick's house in the claimed episode. They might also be the group that was down by the tracks that ended up telling Carol and Tyrese to head towards Terminus. Because if you're a bunch of cannibals and you hunt human meat, it's kind of hard to hunt human meat in the post-apocalypse. But it's very easy to put up a sign offering hope and salvation for, weary travelers. So then your meal comes to you. So I'm thinking that we might actually be seeing the hunters rather than Negan's sanctuary, the saviors. But anyway, Beth stumbles across some peach schnapps, and she's excited to try and drink it, but Daryl's not having it. Daryl smashes that bottle, and it's like, for your first drink, you're not going to have peach schnapps. So he takes her to a moonshine house where he and Michonne apparently have found this at a previous outing. And so they're drinking, they're inside this moonshine house. And Beth decides she wants to play a drinking game. So she decides they're going to play Never Have I Ever. Now, never have I ever played Never Have I Ever, but I'm kind of along with Daryl in this. Daryl didn't seem to find it very amusing. It wasn't fun to him. He just wasn't in it from the very beginning. But she ends up asking him, have you ever been to jail? And he reacts negatively. So she tries to dial it back, and it's like, oh, maybe you were a prison guard in your life before this. He just flips out at that point. He has an emotional break from reality, and he's just going off on her. He's pissing in the corner, and he forces her to go outside and kill this walker that's been ambling around outside the windows for a little while. And I think a lot of people thought, just reading the recaps online, that he reacted negatively because she was implying that he was a criminal, and he took offense to that. I don't think that was it at all. I think the fact that she mentioned jail and prison, which just so happened to be the home that they had just come from, where all their friends and family had just supposedly been killed. Daryl thinks they're all dead. Beth holds out some hope, but Daryl definitely thinks they're all dead, and he feels responsible for it. Because remember, he had told Michonne, why are you still going out and looking for the governor when this situation is over? And he could have gone out with Michonne and hunted the governor down, and if they would have killed the governor before he got a new group together, then they might still be in that prison. They might still be alive. So he feels like they dropped the ball on that. He has a lot of regret about it. He has a lot of regret about most things in his life. Because he reveals in his little crying episode, when he's crying about his father and everything, he was a loner. He really didn't have a group of people to call his own. He had no purpose in his life when there was a life worth living. It actually ended up, he didn't find a purpose in his own life until after life stopped being life. He didn't find his purpose until he found Rick in the group. So, with that being gone, he's kind of aimless again, just wandering around. In the end, Beth and Daryl end up burning down the Moonshine House, and it was kind of like an allegory. They flipped the bird to the house and everything, and they walked off as it was going up in flames. It was almost like it was symbolic of the regrets that they had about their past life. And they were letting it all burn, letting it all go. Now, it doesn't look like we're going to see Terminus next episode. It's probably going to be Sasha and Maggie and Bob in the next episode. But I think the episode after next is when we'll all finally end up together again in this Terminus place, which, again, I think it's going to be where the hunters are at. So we're going to have some very interesting storylines coming up. Now, I kind of like the fact that they're pushing the episode south before they push it north to Washington, D.C. You got that hint again that they are definitely going to be going to Washington, D.C. because in the country club, Beth finds a spoon that has the picture of the Capitol on it. But I like the fact that they're moving south towards Macon because there's a video game by Telltale Games. If you're a fan of the show, you know this. You probably played it on your iPhone or on your computer or something. But the Walking Dead series of games by Telltale Games takes place in Macon. And they have a cannibal scene in the game as well. It's a farm right outside of Macon where the group stumbles upon, they think that they found sanctuary and it's a good place and they're going to have good meals and everything. Well, they don't realize that they're actually eating one of their fallen comrades. One of their allies that's from the group has been killed, slaughtered, and is being fed to them. So I kind of like the fact that the TV show is giving a nod, a little wink, to the video game by placing Terminus closer to Macon. And if these really are the cannibals, it's going to be very interesting to see if they go with the cannibals from the book or the more approachable, likable, in the beginning, likable cannibals from the game. So, until next time, I'll see you next week.